Hello and welcome to another episode of the Kid Stories Podcast. I'm Phil Bechtel. Let's get into a shout-out. Theodore McNeil left me a voice message through SpeakPipe there on the Kid Stories Podcast website. Thanks, Theodore. I think if you were a character from the stories, you'd be a wind rider, a type of kid wizard who can literally control and ride the wind from place to place. Thanks for listening, Theodore. Today's episode is titled The Scavengers, Part 4. Liam, Nathan, and Kyle followed Yedda through the skinny secret tunnel for hours. They passed through spaces where the floor, ceiling, and walls were all stone, like the tunnel was chipped out of the side of a mountain. Other times it was like they were tunneling through a hill, with old wooden beams supporting the earth above them. Finally, they reached their destination. The tunnel opened up into a large room. There were tables and bookcases around this room, covered in a thick layer of dust. Yedda and the other two citizens lit some torches. "Where are we?" Liam asked. "We're in the bog. It's a swamp. Go see," Yedda said, pointing to a door across the room. Nathan slowly opened the creaky old door, and the three boys looked out into what was clearly a swamp. Damp ground, moss hanging down from tree limbs, foliage so thick not much sunlight could reach the ground. "Well, what do we do now?" Nathan said. "I'm not sure. Leave the door open, pull those maps down and spread them out," Yedda said. Soon the dust was brushed away and maps covered most of the tables. Yedda laid what looked like gumdrops out on the ground. Before anyone could ask about it, she began referencing the maps, placing stones to note different locations. "All right, the town we came from was here. We took this secret tunnel through these hills, and now we're here," Yedda explained as Liam, Nathan, and Kyle leaned over the table to get a good look. If the robots followed the road, then they would have reached this town hours ago, and then they'd continue to this town and this one. Lizards began crawling in through the open door, and they ate some of the little gumdrops. The boys leaned away from the maps, finding it difficult to pay attention when the wildlife was coming in. Looks like you've got a lizard problem," Liam said. Yedda's two helpers had been writing notes on small pieces of paper at another table. While the lizards chewed on the squishy gumdrops, they rolled up the notes and tied them to the lizards' tails. Before the first lizards were finished with their treats, more crawled in the door, with notes already tied to their tails. Yedda picked up these lizards and placed them on a table. "Help me get the notes off." The boys untied the notes from the lizards' tails and gave them to Yedda. She unrolled them and began reading. The boys watched the lizards closely. Translucent wings popped up into the air on their little green backs. The lizards then flew out into the swamp, buzzing like little lizard flies with notes tied to their tails, heading off to other towns or secret hideouts all over Gavita. Liam turned to Yedda to see she had tears in her eyes. "They've already reached Hempton. They're burning every town in their path, burning them all to the ground." Yedda jerked her head toward Liam and Nathan. "What does Blackstar want with you? Why did you come here?" Liam opened his mouth to explain, to tell Yedda everything, but Kyle butted in before he could answer. "It doesn't matter," he said. "Our only option is to fight Blackstar. They're going to lay waste to this place no matter what." "Do you have transports off the planet?" asked Nathan. "We could always try and sneak off planet and escape." "The people of Gavita have limited technology. We have no interstellar travel options," Yedda said. Over the next few hours, they reviewed the maps, looking for some useful piece of information, trying to come up with an idea. Meanwhile, more and more lizards crawled or flied into the room. Yedda and her helpers continued unrolling notes and reading little bits of news from all over Gavita. "More have come," she said, jumping up from her chair. "More robot ships have landed outside of Trepton and Hashburn. Is this the end of Gavita? What about mounting a defense? Do you have an armory or a weapons storage facility or anything?" asked Liam. Yedda looked to her two helpers. "We have significant defenses, but it's been centuries since the last Colossal was shut down." "Colossal? That sounds cool. Tell us more," said Liam. Centuries ago, Gavita was a place of war. Constant, devastating war, Yedda began. Different factions on the planet waged war in massive robotic suits of armor. That's why all these old secret tunnels were dug. Eventually, the population grew so low that the citizens of Gavita left their weapons for good. The Colossals remain abandoned in an underground cavern, and the people of Gavita have flourished in peace. Until now. She glared at the three boys. Say more about these massive robotic suits of armor, said Nathan. It is pointless, said Yedda. The batteries used to power the Colossals have long since drained, and there isn't enough power on the entire planet to start one, much less lead a squad into battle. Liam and Nathan slumped over, feeling defeated again. They felt trapped in an impossible situation. Oh no, if only we had an endless supply of energy to power massive robotic suits of armor and defeat Blackstar once and for all, said Kyle sarcastically. It took Liam and Nathan a few seconds to realize what he was talking about, but it clicked, and they both said, The quantum core! In unison. Liam slumped his bag off his shoulders and onto a table. He unzipped the main compartment and carefully pulled out the quantum core. Yedda stood looking down at the core in disbelief. We can use the quantum core to power the Colossals, Liam said. This is what Blackstar is after, Yedda muttered. The quantum core. The yellow light from the core illuminated the room. The thin shred of yellow star floated and turned in the glass sphere. I wish there were an easier way, said Yedda, but you are right about Blackstar. They will destroy Gavita if we do not stop them, even if I turn the core over to them. Liam, Nathan, and Kyle knew that Yedda would easily turn them over to Blackstar if it meant saving Gavita, and they couldn't really blame her for that. But the wheels were set in motion, and the only thing that could save them now was to stop Blackstar. Yedda and her helpers wrote a few more notes and sent them off on flying lizards. They gathered some maps and led the group through the swamp. Luckily, the caverns aren't far from here, Yedda explained. Another day of travel and they reached a heavy steel door built into the side of a hill. A weathered skull and crossbones was painted on the door. Yedda led everyone through the door and down countless steps, winding deep into Gavita. They stepped into a massive cavern, a huge natural opening so large multiple spaceships could fit inside. Yedda lit torches, and the firelight shone on the most amazing war mechs the boys had ever seen. Lined up there on the stone floor were 10 huge mechs. These looked like robots, each one 10, 20, 30 feet high. The idea was the controller or pilot of each mech climbed up the metal legs and into the cockpit where they controlled the thing. This is incredible, Liam said. I call the flamer, Nathan shouted, running to one huge mech with 2 flame blasters at the end of its arms. Handles were welded up the leg of the mech, and Nathan used them to quickly reach the cockpit, a small, glass-enclosed chair with joysticks and controls for both his hands. This particular mech had seen some battles, and the glass was broken out of the blast shield that lowered down in front of the chair. Nathan slid into the seat and reached out for the controls, holding, turning, and twisting the joystick handles and exploring the buttons with his fingers. He got out of the cockpit and climbed to the back of the mech and found the battery ports. The others took some time among the huge metal robot suits. They each chose their colossal, and one by one Liam used the quantum core to max out the batteries and the charging ports. Each mech unit, once powered on, filled the cavern with light from their many flashing bulbs and spotlights. Are all the Colossals charged? Yedda asked. Yeah, they're charged, but there's like 4 extra ones with no one to pilot them, Liam said. I gave word before leaving the swamp. Help is on the way to give us a full squad of Colossals, said Yedda. Take some time to familiarize yourself with the controls. We are still receiving word from around the planet about robot troop movements. We'll head out once we've formulated a plan. Maps were laid out on the floor. Little rows of gumdrops attracted the flying male lizards. Yedda and her helpers were busy unrolling notes and sending other lizards off with new notes. I guess we should run maintenance on these Colossals until we're ready to go, Nathan said. Hey, do you guys think they'll let us keep one of these if we destroy all the Blackstar bots? Kyle asked. I think we're going to be lucky if Yedda herself doesn't blow us up once Blackstar's dealt with, said Liam. And the three went to work, prepping the Mechs for battle. The end. Thanks for listening, friends. The website is kidstoriespodcast.com. Send all your shout-out requests and drawings to kidstoriespodcast@gmail.com. Adios.